All right, class, welcome to week 11. We are definitely down the home stretch. We only have this week's lecture and next week's lecture. We're heading down the home stretch. All right, this is going to be on live music touring. We've talked about there are three main sections of the music industry as far as revenue goes. There's recorded music, which is the youngest. We have publishing, which is in the middle. It was it's been around for a long time, but the oldest is live music. So people talk about how the music industry is devolving, and it's devolving to where the recorded music is no longer a product. Publishing is changing and really shifting more to syncing. It's especially print is not really going to be a big thing in the future for publishing. And then you have live music. Well, really though, you know, it's a devolution back to what it was. Live music has always been the main source for musicians. Um, I've heard it asserted that people need to quit calling themselves recording artists and call themselves performers. You might perform your own music, but you don't make a living off being a recording artist. You make a living off being a performing musician. And here's why. The facts are recorded music isn't worth anything anymore. You probably all discover your music either on YouTube or Spotify, and you don't pay for it. It just streams. And streaming revenue is minuscule. We'll get into that in the business administration class, but it is very minuscule compared to the statutory rate, mechanical rate, whether when you're buying an album or you're purchasing a download. So we talked early on about true fans, 1,000 true fans, and we're going to go back over that because it kind of really ties into the live thing. If 1,000 true fans meaning not somebody who casually, and here's the difference. I have fans that will drive across the country and purchase every CD, every koozie, every t-shirt that I put out. They come to see me probably 4 to 5 times a year in concert. That is a true fan. I have other fans. They may come to one concert a year. They probably won't buy the whole album. They'll download, I like this song and this song. These are the two songs I really like. I downloaded those. That's a casual fan. And then there's the people, I like to call them the people that just happen to be at the bar. When I play the gig, they just happen to be there. And they may like it. They may, on an impulse, buy a CD that night, but I'll never see them again. Those are sort of the three categories of fans. But, so your true fans, the ones that'll drive across the country, they're going to see you 5 times, they're going to buy everything. And if they spend $100 a year on an artist through concert tickets, t-shirts, downloads, that's $100,000 a year. So with the new model, what if you could get your diehard fans, instead of spending so much time trying to get more fans, if you had 1,000, why not try to get those 1,000 fans to spend more money on you? So, and that's kind of what the crowdfunding thing does. I'm pretty anti-crowdfunding, but the one thing it does is it gives your real fans the opportunity to get more. And what they want is they want closer to you. So what if you could get your true fans, instead of spending $100 a year on you, they'd spend $500 a year on you. Obviously, that takes you to $500,000. And then what if it was a sliding scale? What if you had 200 fans who spent $500 and they're like the obsessive, I love you so much, I could marry you people. And then you have 300 fans who would spend $250 and they're like, you're one of my top 3 favorite bands. And then you have 500 fans who would spend $100 saying, I really like these guys. If you did that, instead of artists earning about $100,000 a year, they could earn $225,000 a year. You see how, especially if you're a do-it-yourself artist, even on a small indie label, $225,000 a year is really good. That's really good. That is enough for an entire band to make a living, and that's off 1,000 real fans. Those are real numbers, just 1,000 fans. Recorded music is bottoming out. Publishing is shifting into sync fees, like we said. So live music is the way. Here's the problem. And Tom Jackson, who is the guru of putting together shows, he puts together shows for Taylor Swift, U2, on and on and on and on and on. Here's the thing is, you'll spend 6 months to a year writing songs for an album, just sweating over it, editing it, arranging it, spending all this time. You'll spend hours on end over your merchandise and picking out this design and that design and where do we want to go with it. And then when it comes time to do a show, you spend 5 minutes putting together the set list and you don't spend any time on it. That makes absolutely no sense. It never made any sense. But it certainly doesn't make any sense in the music business world where the primary source of your income is going to be the live show. You should spend the majority of your time working on your live show if you're an artist. If you're a manager, you should spend the majority of your time having your artists work on their live show. You should spend the majority of your money on your live show because that's how you're going to make a living. There's realities, though. Even though it's the primary source of income, there's the CODB, the cost of doing business. And if you think about for a live show, here's just some of them. You have to hire musicians, band members. You have to pay for gas, both ways. You have to pay for food. Now let me go back to gas. That isn't just gas. It's also wear and tear. The IRS puts out every few years they'll change the rate, but the amount of mileage you should charge, that includes the gas price and the wear and tear. Right now it's at 56 cents per mile. So every mile you go, the gas and the wear and tear on your vehicle is 56 cents a mile. That's what the standard is right now. That will change. It changes every few years. Once this video is a couple years old, it'll change. It'll go up. It never goes down. It goes up. But so you got hiring musicians, gas, food, equipment purchases like amps, PA, equipment upkeep and wear and tear. That's strings, tubes for your amp, vehicle purchase, vehicle insurance, vehicle maintenance, merchandise purchases, advertising purchases, which are like backdrops. You have branding and marketing purchases, which are things like if you hire publicists to do tour publicity, and there's on and on and on and on and on. It goes. So cost of doing businesses. That's why you see those memes, memes are usually stupid, but it talks about musician, somebody who drives 5,000 miles or spends $5,000 on equipment, drives 500 miles in a car that's worth $500 to get $50. There's some truth to that. People don't realize. They think when they hire a musician, it's like, hey, if I give you $50, that's good, right? You made money. It's like, well, no, I really lost money. And there's different ways to put on shows, and there's different levels of putting on shows. There's the level where you're booking at a club, and you're either going to get a percentage of the door, or you're going to get a guarantee. And really, the lowest level is kind of the percentage of the door, because really, there's no risk for the club. If you don't bring anybody in, they don't really lose all that much money other than their employees. And then there's the guarantee. And then you have the ticketed event, the small ticketed event. Then you have the big ticketed event, and all this. And they all have different pay structures. And there's other ways to do it. You can actually get a big facility and just rent it out. And it's called four-walling. It's a rental of a performance facility where the landlord offers only the venue or minimal services. It means they're not going to bring their own security. They're not going to bring the snack shop people to go around and sell cotton candy. They're not going to do any of that. They're basically renting you the four walls. That's why it's called four-walling. In this scenario, the promoter, whether that's you or an actual promoter, assumes all the risk. And they have to get permits and they have to get security. There's different pay structures, like we said. Let's go back to that. There's the flat fee, or what's called a guarantee. There's the percentage of door. There's percentage of ticket sales. There's the versus, like $500 versus 80% of the door, whichever is more. And there's the plus deal, $2,000 plus 10% of ticket sales. Flat fee is often the best option for an up-and-coming artist because you don't know what you're going to draw. But especially if you're going to break a new market, all the risk is on the promoter. But with the risk is also the reward. So you are trying to break a new market 50 miles from your home. You don't know who you're going to draw. The promoter says, okay, I'll give you $1,000. Now, all the risk is with the promoter. So if nobody shows up, literally not a single person shows up, they still have to pay you $1,000 at the end of the night. But if that club holds 500 people and they have 550 show up and the fire department has to come because there's so many people and he made $100,000 that night, you cannot come back to him and go, since we made you so much money, can we get an extra $20? No, they owe you $1,000, period. You agreed to a guarantee. So there's a principle in business that we'll talk about is the higher the risk, the higher the reward. And he who is taking the risk should reap the reward. Risk equals reward if it works out. There's the back end deal, so that's the flat fee. The back end deal is the artist only gets a percentage of ticket sales, usually a higher percentage. And there are some big artists that do this. Kenny Chesney in the country world only does a back end deal. He takes no money up front. But he also is so confident in his ability to sell arenas out that it works out great for him. He takes a high percentage of ticket sales, like 60%, which is crazy. But he knows he's going to sell it out. Um, there's there's expenses to be figured up. We're going to take like a little detour here. There's variable expenses. Variable expenses are expenses that change in proportion to the activity of a business. Meaning, for example, gas is a variable expense. The farther away the gig, the more expensive it is. Sometimes there's a restoration surcharge where you have like a historic venue. It's a predetermined amount in order to maintain the uniqueness of the venue. So you have an old historic venue. If a seat breaks, that's pretty expensive for them to fix a seat that may not even be manufactured anymore. So they'll charge you a surcharge for it. Then, as opposed to variable expenses, there's also fixed expenses. So variables on one side means it changes. The more of it you use, it basically is this: the more of it you use, the more expensive it is. There's fixed expenses, which means it's not affected by how much you use it. A great example of that would be your vehicle, your van, or your trailer. Take your trailer. The more you use your trailer payment is not more expensive. If it sits in your driveway for a month, that trailer payment's going to be $100. If you guys are on the road 28 days of that month, it's still going to be $100. It's a fixed expense. It doesn't change. Fixed expenses are costs of owning and operating a property that are not discretionary, which means fixed expenses are also, not only do they not change, but you have no option but to do them. On your trailer, you must have insurance. It's a fixed expense. It's always going to be the same unless you have a wreck. It's going to be the same. It's not going to change, but you also don't have the option to not have it. Variable expenses, you can kind of save money by going, if we're not on the road, we're not spending gas, we can take that expense away. All right, so those are expenses that kind of come up in the back end deal because a lot of times you're assuming the risk. There's a straight percentage deal, which is percentage of the door, least amount of risk for the venue. Like I said, if nobody shows up, but if you don't put butts in seats, you don't get paid. The one thing about that is because and the percentage of the door, because there's no actual tickets, it's kind of hard to prove how many people actually came. And so what I would suggest is always having somebody from your organization, the band, count people coming in along with their employee. Their employee is going to want to handle the money, but you need to have somebody from your band, your merch manager, somebody stand there as people are coming in and count. That way you have two people and there's accountability there. There's the guarantee versus percentage deal, which the artist is guaranteed a flat fee or a percentage of ticket sales, whichever is higher. A lot of times as a new artist, they'll do that. Say, hey, I'll pay you $400. Usually in this, the guarantee's low. I'll pay you $400 or 20% of ticket sales, whichever is higher. Then there's the guarantee plus deal, which is ding, 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 ding. That's what you want. It is the best deal for the artist. The artist gets a flat fee plus a percentage of ticket sales. Now, in this scenario, unlike just a percentage of ticket sales, you're going to get a low percentage. Like where I said Kenny Chesney gets 60%, which is high for anybody. You might typically get 40% of ticket sales if you're just going off ticket sales. In this scenario where it's a guarantee plus ticket sales, you're usually going to get a smaller percentage, like 10%, 15%. But you're also going to get your guarantee. And so the percentage of ticket sales is on top of the guarantee. So if tickets are $10, do a little math. Write this down, have a piece of paper. So if tickets are $10 and your flat fee is $1,000 plus 50% of ticket sales, you're not going to get that, but just for the simple math's sake. The first 100 people through the door go towards the $1,000, which meaning you don't get that percentage. Okay? It's after the break-even point of your guarantee. So if there are 150 people, the band would have made $1,000 plus 50 because there's 150 people. That extra 50 people times 50% of $10. So you'd have got basically $5 for each of the last 50 people that came in. So your total would be $1,250. Still turns out great. It helps the venue uh, get artists that are not baby bands, they're not beginners, but it helps get them without taking on all the risk. So basically, what's going to happen in the guarantee plus percentage deal is you're going to get a little bit lower guarantee than you would like. Say that you typically charge 2,000, you're going to get 1,000, but you're going to get 50% or 15% of ticket sales after that $1,000 is met. So you end up, you ask for 2,000, you probably typically get 1,500. In this scenario, you get 1,250. So the one thing to be careful about in this is to try to get it without deductions. They're going to try to deduct everything. I mean, they're going to try to deduct. Well, I had to have an extra person at the door, and it costs this to print the tickets, and not that. You just got to say it's basically based off people, and that's it. No deductions. There's things called reductions, which means you're basically, I call them what you do for midweek gigs. It seems obvious, but maybe I should go ahead and state it, is that you're not going to get paid as much on a Wednesday night as you do on a Saturday night, and nobody does. I'm talking Taylor Swift, doesn't matter. They have levels of markets. There's A markets, which are the big ones like Houston, New York, LA, Chicago. A markets, the gigantic cities. And then there's B markets, which are places like Nashville and Atlanta and smaller cities, Indianapolis, but still cities. And then there's C markets, which are smaller places like Knoxville, Tennessee, or Lexington, Kentucky. If you notice, a lot of even huge artists like Katy Perry will play the big A markets on Friday and Saturday, and then play the C level markets on a Wednesday. She's not getting as much money when she plays those. You do them for less because they're in between geographically two big gigs, and they're usually on an off night. Happens all the time. You also can do a multiple show reduction, meaning if you play the same venue, for instance, Jason Isbell sold out the Ryman 4 nights in a row. He probably worked out a deal to where he's taking less per gig than he normally gets because it's a package deal because he's going to be there 4 nights in a row. And then there's co-op buying. This is from the buyer's end, you can buy, you can book a region for an artist saying, hey, we want you Friday through Tuesday, and we're going to book you in five gigs, but we want to lower the rate. You're giving them 5 gigs, they're going to give you a lower rate. The other thing about touring is when, where, and why to tour. First of all, are you on the tour level? And what I mean by that is, do you have a following or a reason to tour nationally? You can be a regional touring artist. If all your following is in your hometown, you're not a tour level artist. If all of your following is in a 50-mile radius, you're not a touring artist. Now, it doesn't mean you have to have a following before you start touring, but you have to have a reason. Do you have a single out that's nationwide? Do you have coverage in magazines that are nationwide? Do you have things that make it worthwhile for you to go out on tour? One of the big questions we did the regional music scenes are those artists touring artists, the ones that are big in the region? Some of them yes, some of them no. The Texas thing is an interesting thing because Texas artists can gross $2 to $3 million and never leave Texas and Oklahoma. So is that touring or not? I mean, monetarily you'd have to say yes, but geographically no, which is really the best of both worlds. There's a thing called one-offs. When you hear someone in the industry say one-offs, they're talking about playing a show out of your region that is standalone and not a part of a tour. So you have one show in Michigan, and you fly up, you do that show, and you fly back. It's called a one-off. If you are a local artist, it sounds counterintuitive, but you have to be careful not to play too much. You can, what they call, beat a market up. And here's, so why would you want to tour? Is it to promote a new record? That used to be always the reason why. Is it to build a brand? That's also, you got to get your name out there. Is it that you need money? Is it to get a record deal? Win strategies. Are you in front of a single or are you chasing a single? Some people go out and tour before they release a single to try to get their name on people's minds, to try to get that first impression. Other people tour after a single is released to try to boost the single. New markets versus old markets. My suggestion would be that you do 2 old markets to every new market because the money's not going to be as good. I still play new markets all the time, but I try to piggyback those, or what I call hide them, in the tour with surrounded by old markets so that we know we can make up for whatever we may or may not make in that new market. You want to do indoor versus outdoor venues, leaching versus creating. And that's an interesting concept there. Leaching meaning, are you trying to piggyback off someone else's following, or are you creating your own? And then where to tour. Not every genre needs to be touring nationwide. If you're Texas country, you need to stay in Texas and Oklahoma. Or if you're Americana, Americana's really big on the East Coast and in the Northwest. Not really so big up in New York. So there's no reason to do that. Like I said, it used to be you tour to promote album sales. Albums don't really sell anymore. So if not, then why tour? I would say this, because that's how you're going to make your living. Touring is the thing. It is the function. The album or the recorded music is really there to promote the tour, not the other way around. A big thing coming up now is house concerts. You can do that. There's people that tour only house concerts. That's how they make their living. What the great thing about house concert is, it allows a fan to have you in. You can stay in the house. You just walk upstairs and go to bed. They usually house you. It allows your fans to get close to you. Talk about those 1,000 true fans. They want to get close to you. And so it literally allows you to sit in their living room and play songs. Another reason to tour, are you between publishing or record deals, or, if you're going to make most of your money off touring, basically the new model is just to stay on the road. Some artists benefit from a hit and it makes them a household name, but more often than not, you got to build your fan base one market at a time, strategically targeting regions where you as an artist are strong and where you need to grow. And you're not going to be a headliner right off. That headliner is the last band on. It's really the band that most people are there to see. Another reason we talk about touring is radio. Is it to promote a single, or is it? Are you going to play smaller venues to launch an album? Let's talk about the timing of touring, because one of the first things I said in this lecture was when. About 70% of all concerts take place between April and September, simply because of weather. It's festival season, or they call them where you're going to play a lot of sheds, which is outdoor amphitheaters. People have in the summer, they have more time. They're more, for some reason, willing to spend money, and obviously the weather's better. Say you're, and then what market should be played? Say you're a local Memphis rock band who's wanting to grow into a touring artist. What market should you go next? I would say you go 30 miles away on either direction. You should just start drawing a radius. We'll go 30 miles away. And once you build up a following there, we'll go 50 miles away. Because what that's going to allow to do is you to mix, bringing in, like you play 20 miles away, there's going to be some people from Memphis that are going to come see you, and there's going to be some people from that new town that are going to come see you, like say Jackson, which is more than 20, but there's going to be some people from Memphis that are going to drive up to Jackson to see you. So you're going to have an enthusiastic audience, which is going to create buzz, and then those new people are going to be there. And then say you go from Jackson, you're going to go up another 20 miles, 25 miles, and then you're going to carry some of the people from Jackson with you. So you're allowing yourself to carry people with you and also play in front of new people. You should always be looking to expand your markets. You really should. One of the things you're going to want to do is get a technical writer. Technical writer is an addendum to a performance contract stipulating requirements for staging, sound, and equipment. What do you need? How many monitors? How many microphones? That's a technical writer. Eventually, you're going to want a tour manager. A tour manager their job is to make sure that life on the road runs smoothly for everyone involved. Basically means that even if you're the artist, the tour manager is the boss on the road. Even if you're the artist manager and you're out on tour with them, the tour manager is the boss on the road. They basically get paid to make sure the band gets safely from venues and hotels, manages the money coming in and going out, deals with promoters and venue managers. If there's a problem, they're the bad guy. They always do the complaining. So tour manager David Norman says this: his day consists of moving the artist and the band from city to city. So they determine things like bus call. We're going to be in the lobby of the hotel. It's called bus call at 6 a.m. We're leaving at 6:15 a.m. And if you're not ready, they'll come pound on your door and yelling at you. Basically, they deal with the travel agent, booking flights, ground, hotels. They do day sheets, which is info on what your day will be like, including departure time, show time, sound check, travel after the show. A day sheet is this. The tour manager gives you a day sheet, and it says, here's what you need to do and when. And everyone's is different. As the singer and artist, I have to do sometimes some radio stuff that the other guys don't have to do. That will be on my day list. Tour managers work with the venues, the promoters, travel agents, band members, sound and tech, instrument techs, sound engineers, tour bus drivers, tour coordinators, production managers, tour accountants, and road crew. They are the head person in charge on the road. That is the basic overview. You guys will have several classes on, you'll have concert and promotion, you'll have booking and venue management. You're going to have several classes that will deal with all this more in depth, but that is the synopsis of live music and touring right there.